Gary just put a triumphant end to forced labor within his company's supply chain. Now, his only kryptonite is the office candy bowl. Save your company's operations and reputation with Exiger.
Supply chain. You heard me talking about that a moment ago. Our man on anything to do with the supply chain is a guy by the name of Brandon Daniels. Brandon is the CEO of the firm Exiger, which analyzes risk in our supply chain. He joins us now ahead of this news conference in the East Room with the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of India. You tell me, Brandon, what's important about the Prime Minister of India and the President of the United States from your perspective?
Well, I mean, there are multiple things, Connell. So we've obviously got the looming reciprocal tariffs, right? And that has the potential to drive up prices, and that has the potential to drive up prices when we just got a CPI that shows inflation. Now, it shows inflation in areas that haven't been subject to tariffs yet. So like aluminum and steel and all these tariffs that we've seen, none of those hit the areas where we've actually got CPI increases. Like the stuff we've seen in CPI increases were, things like food, things like housing, not stuff that would be traditionally associated with the raw materials that Trump has actually put tariffs against. But there are areas of inflation that could start to teeter if we don't have offsets for China, if we do blanket tariffs on China or reciprocal tariffs on China. And India could be an offset for those. Like India is the fourth largest auto manufacturer in the world. And if we're talking about what we saw inflation against, we saw recreation, which includes vehicles, in that CPI increase. So they could offset some of that. Another thing that we saw was that pharmaceuticals took a huge jump, Connell. And so that's, a 2.5% increase, which was the largest jump on record.
So Trump cut some deals with Modi, who has a pretty good relationship with, on some of these issues, is your point. And that helps us vis-a-vis China.
It would be a huge opportunity to diversify our supply chains and could offset some of the impacts that we would see on reciprocal tariffs.
Why haven't we been doing much of this in the past? I mean, what's been holding us back or holding India back?
So one of the things that's held India back is their relationship with Russia, right? They've actually got a really strong relationship with Russia. They are one of their biggest trading partners in the regions. India is the only large sort of global power in the region now that can offset China. But, they've got a strong relationship with Russia.
Because we used to talk about them together a lot. Remember, India and China years ago. And then China economically seems to be in a different league. But now, if the world got together and said, all right, India, we need you, and I don't know if Modi's the guy for this or not, then maybe you could offset more of that.
Modi is definitely a business guy.
True.
So I think that he is the one that would look to take advantage of a situation like this. And China has a tenuous relationship, Connell. It's not as good as you'd think, because China wants to be the superpower in the region. And India, over the last 20 years, has gone from the world's outsourcing hub to a stable, independent economy. And China fears that.
Right. So it's us versus China, but we use India because there's been a lot. We're having a lot of small conversations today, and you get it. A lot of them are important, but that's the bigger conversation. I wonder if anything comes out. What would be a kind of a short-term win on that front today that could be announced?
Look, I think if we were able to announce trade deals that helped us expand, for instance, rare earth refinement in India, that would be a really big win.
Okay.
India is, I think, one of the top 5 rare earth reserves in the world. If we could come out with expanded trade deals between us and India for food and some of the goods that China typically buys from the United States, that would be an awesome opportunity.
Right.
And if we could strike a deal with them, because they benefited big time from the diversification of the chip supply chain off the back of the CHIPS Act.
Right. The president was talking about that. Yeah. So maybe that might be something we hear today. Chips related. All right, Brandon, real quick, got to get a break in. Thank you. Blake.